publishing industry is famous for having a sort of strange schedule throughout the year. You can't submit during Christmas, of course, probably not after Thanksgiving. In fact, you probably shouldn't submit during the major book expositions. Everyone's gone during summer. Early January is a time when everybody's really busy coming back to work. So there's these tiny little windows when you can actually do anything in the industry, or at least that's the reputation. My name is Michael Carr. I'm a literary agent with Veritas Literary, and this is How to Hook an Agent. Now, some of these things are true and some are less true than others, and some are things that are going to affect me as an agent, and they're not going to necessarily affect you as someone who is querying. But this is something you're going to hear, especially after you sign with an agent. Certain times of the year are very, very difficult. For example, I don't usually go out on submission anytime from about a week before Thanksgiving until the start of the new year. The reasons why, of course, so many people are traveling for Thanksgiving, there are then various Jewish and Christian religious holidays that affect people, and there are a lot of Jewish people in New York and other people who are taking time off for secular reasons. People are going to be working during this time. Very few people are going to take 6 or 7 weeks off. But at any given point, there are going to be key decision makers who are not in place. And most of the time when you get an offer on a book that you have submitted to New York or other publishers, you need to get a quorum together in what is called an ed board, an editorial board, where people are going to make their pitch on whether or not this book should be acquired based on how they think it'll do in the market, whether the profit and loss statement is going to show, and that sort of thing. It's really hard to get a quorum put together, and so the fact of the matter is your book can go there and kind of languish if you submit at the wrong time. I then usually go out in early January with projects that I have been working on in late fall that need to go on wider submission. There are going to be exceptions. Some editors I know are going to be working during that period of time. There are some people who have a little bit more discretion to make offers of a certain size without getting any sort of official approval from an ed board, or they might just simply need to get one person approving the publisher, for example. Similarly, there are some major book-related events throughout the year. And not only does that affect the week of the event, but generally the week leading up to it, the week after when people are trying to get caught up on work, that sort of thing. And then summer can be really challenging for kind of the same reasons that you have in around Christmas time or the end of the year. It can be hard to get enough people together because just so many people are out of the office. So those are some of the things that I'm working with, but it works a little bit differently when it comes to queries. In my case, one thing that's counterintuitive for a lot of people that they don't realize is that the late time of the year is actually really good for me when it comes time to submitting. And the reason why is because I still have to work, but I can't actually be out on submission. I'm probably not negotiating contracts. There are certain other sorts of things that are critical, more important parts of my job than going through my slush pile or reading manuscripts that I've evaluated than that I can't actually do at that period of time. So a lot of times, literally the week from Christmas until New Year is a time when traditionally I have done a lot of catching up on my slush pile, not only going through queries, but responding, most cases rejecting, but sometimes making offers on the partials and fulls that I've requested. So that means that a lot of times, a few weeks ahead of time, before the holidays, is a period of time where I'm probably more open to be requesting certain manuscripts that my my hit rate on requesting is going to be higher than at other periods of time. Not a bad time. People are thinking, well, it's the holidays, maybe I shouldn't submit. This is going to vary from person to person, but in my case, it's actually not a bad time. Now, if you then submit in January, on the other hand, there's a really good chance that I'm completely caught up in other things. It's not that I'm going to just reject those manuscripts out of hand, but I'm a little bit less receptive at that point in time. And it's also likely that you might end up having a little bit longer response time for me. So that's kind of where I'm looking at now. Going to summer, which is another time that's hard to submit. I too am frequently traveling at that time period on vacation. That's usually where I take a larger trip, a non-working trip, because I sometimes am traveling to Latin America. There's projects that I've been involved with down there that have me down there, but I'm still working while I'm down there. So it's not a vacation. I'm just working from a different home base. But in summer is when I'm frequently taking a couple of weeks off. Like, just week before last, I was out visiting a couple of national parks. I had almost zero access to the internet, and those times I did when I stopped at the National Park Visitor Center, because the place I was staying at really had no service. All the time I had to do was just check in on my email using the very, very limited bandwidth and respond 2 or 3 times a day to some kind of urgent things. Apart from that, I was completely offline. I was doing lengthy hikes and things along those lines that didn't, I wasn't going to be reading any queries or anything like that. So that would have been not a good time. But of course, you have no way to know that, because neither I nor any other agent is going to be putting up on a calendar for public consumption when they're going to be on vacation and when they're planning to read queries and the like. So a lot of this is me saying that when is the best time for you to go out on submission with your queries? It's probably when your book is done. In fact, I would say if you are using as an excuse the fact that it's a dead period of time in the industry, or that people might be on vacation, or it's the holidays or whatnot, that's something that is really just you looking for an excuse not to go out, because there's no way to know at any given time who's going to be in the office and who's going to be out of the office. I guarantee if you go out with 20 or 30 queries, you're going to get some people who are going to have an auto response saying, I'm not actually in the office, emergencies only, that sort of thing, and other people who are doing the same thing but not actually sending you those emails. So you, as a aspiring writer, need to go out with your query when it's ready, and then try to pay close attention to what kind of responses you're getting and how long it takes. And if you get people who say they're close to submissions at that time for whatever reason, then go ahead and mark those down and hit them up at a later time. This is also a good reason to potentially go with my general suggestion, which is to go out with queries in batches, 10, 15 at a time. This is not only to stagger your responses that you get and maybe avoid going out with everybody and just getting your ego crushed by bad responses, as well as the ability to continue to work on and perfect your query, polish your opening pages if you're not getting the responses you like, but also a way, frankly, to assure that if 10 or 20% of the people at any given time are not available, that maybe your staggering is going to allow you to hit a larger number of people rather than potentially going out at a period of time where a lot of people aren't looking. So I would say 10 to 15 queries at a time, spaced every 2 to 4 weeks, every 2 weeks if you're getting a good response, maybe every 4 weeks or a month if you're not, and you should probably be getting some idea of how well your queries are doing, and that gives you a chance to go out. Best time, however, if you've got your book ready, your query is ready, everything's ready to go, is today.